All right. Good morning, everybody. This is Stacy Short and my friend Comfort Woods. Oh, I'm reversed. I forgot. And
Mhm.
today we're going to talk about healing your inner child and the importance of doing that, and maybe answer some questions. So if you have any questions for either Comfort or myself, feel free to just type them in the chat. We are live on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Oh, and LinkedIn. Sorry. So yeah, I hope you guys are tuning in. And I know it's Saturday morning, but take a few minutes for yourself and see where maybe you could be healing and need a little guidance or support. So I'm Stacy Short. I am a transformational life coach, and I help women struggling with exhaustion, indecisiveness, and loss of identity due to putting everybody else ahead of themselves. And Comfort, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Comfort Woods. I'm a personal empowerment coach, and I help women who are struggling with codependency and people pleasing behavior um, due to emotional abuse and help them find their own power, rewrite their narrative, and become their own champion.
I love it. Comfort, how did you get started in that particular niche? Why is that your niche?
That's my niche because that was my life. I myself have been engaged in codependency and people pleasing behavior, and it led my life in a direction that was not my choosing, and it was really hard for me. And I wasn't satisfied in my relationships, and I wasn't satisfied with my job or pretty much anything in my life. And it took a very pivotal moment for me to finally kind of snap out of it and take some of that empathy that I had for everyone else, finally turn that inward and make some real changes in my life.
What was that? You said it was a pivotal moment. So, what was that breaking
Yeah.
point for you?
Well, things just had to get bad enough, really. My marriage was taking a dive. We both had some issues that we weren't very good at dealing with, and they were not a great combination with each other. And I found myself kind of just trying to be accommodating and trying to be easygoing and trying to be supportive and empathetic and everything else and putting my own needs and my own life on hold. And it basically turned into just walking on eggshells. And then finally, there was one night where it just got bad enough that I had to run to my mother's house and just cry about it for a while. And that was my ultimate low point. And then finally, I had a perspective shift where my mom told me, she's like, hey, I remember when you were little and you used to be just this little ball of sunshine, like, and it kills me to see you like this. And so, I got up and I looked in the mirror and I I realized that when I was little, I used to fantasize about the kind of adult that I would be when I grew up, because back then I was getting bullied a lot. I was not being treated well by my peers. So I would daydream a lot about becoming strong someday and confident and kind and brave and everything else. And in that moment, I realized that there was no more fantasizing about the future. I was the future. This was me. I was it. And so if I didn't make a change now, then I'm not keeping the promise that I made to myself all those years ago. So I don't know, somehow something shifted and I was able to finally turn some of that empathy that I had for everyone else towards myself and make some real changes. I moved 1,000 miles away. I went back to school. I got a new job. I started reconnecting with people I'd been neglecting and just kind of started putting myself first for the first time. And it ended up absolutely transforming my life.
Um, how did you know to do that? Because I think a lot of women, and me included, when I was in like one of the darkest times for me, as most of my friends know, there's been a couple. Um, but I can just remember in 2014 just being in this deep hole, not knowing that the hole was going to get worse a couple of years later. But I kind of just didn't know what to do. I knew this wasn't it, but I also
Right.
didn't know what it was. So, how did you kind of know what to do there? Or did you trial and error? Like, what did that look like to the path
So,
of like, I'm here and I'm going to be here and let's start up this hill?
well, in my case, it was just a lot of time spent. Like, it's not that I didn't know exactly what would be good for me in my life. Like, I knew that I wanted to go back to school. I knew that I wanted to have, an active social life with friends that I could count on, who could count on me. I knew I wanted to have time to pursue, theater and my other hobbies. And I knew that I was putting all of that off. And part of me knew that something really had to change in my relationship. And I was just afraid to pull the trigger. That's the truth of it, is that it was just fear. It was fear of actually taking that leap. It was fear of potentially losing this person that I love. And finally, it got to the point where the fear of staying outweighed the fear of leaving.
Wow. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so what did that healing process look like? You said you moved 1,000 miles away, started turning that empathy inward, which I think is so difficult for,
Mhm.
people pleasers and codependents, truly. And then what? Did you get help? Did you get education? What did that look like?
I got a lot of support from old friends and family who had just kind of been waiting in the wings and watching how things were going in my life and had expressed worry about me previously. And so I just turned to them and was like, "Hey, here's where I am, and I'm ready." And they were there, and they were ready to help me and just kind of offer me that support, and that was a big deal. I did go to therapy. I ended up actually doing marriage counseling. So the really crazy part of my story is that the situation that I was in with my relationship, my marriage, is that I mean, there was alcoholism involved, which was really, really hard. And I was just kind of waiting for him to do something about it. And he wasn't. So I finally had to just cut ties and say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. If this is how you want to live your life, then more power to you. But I just can't do it with you anymore. And he stepped up. He actually proved to be the man that I thought he was when I married him. And he actually quit drinking, quit his dead end job, quit hanging out with the people that he was spending time with because they weren't really good for him at all. And he ended up moving up here, not back in with me, but nearby. And he went back to school himself, and we both went to therapy. And um, it was a lot of trial and error of learning how to relate to each other in a healthier way. And, you know, there were definitely some fights for sure, but there were definitely a lot of heartfelt conversations and a lot of breakthroughs too. It was a long and difficult process for sure.
Wow. Yeah. I had a relationship for, 4 or 5 years with an alcoholic, and it was tough. It was tough. It was really tough, and what I learned out of that is I can't love anybody enough for them to be like, wanna be sober,
Yeah.
and I thought I could.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly what I thought too. That if you just are kind enough and patient enough and supportive enough and
Yep,
accommodating enough, and the next thing you know, you're
yep.
walking on eggshells and you can't really relax or be yourself at all. And eventually you just got to figure out, one way or another that you can't save people from themselves. You just
No, you can't.
And it's a tragic, thing to have to come to terms with, but it's true.
Yeah, yeah, it was really difficult for me, to let that go because I was enamored with him, and also now I know that my immune or not my immune system, but my nervous system was so dysregulated that it loved the chaos because that felt familiar. And
Yeah.
so, it was a different chaos, but it was chaos nonetheless. And my
Mhm.
body just was like, this feels like home. It's not a good home, but it feels
Yeah.
normal to me. So,
I know yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and that can make it so hard to wanna to leave or change anything because, it's familiar, it's what you're used to, and, stepping out of that is terrifying, it's the unknown,
yeah,
you know?
absolutely it was. And I kinda just didn't know what to do with myself for a long time. And so
Mhm,
I cocooned. I mean, I didn't go out, I didn't see friends, I didn't do my I went to work and home, and that was it, because I didn't know how to function in this other
mhm,
side now. If that wasn't healthy for me and I was choosing healthy things, I didn't know what
mhm.
that looked like. I didn't know what that felt like, and so I just kind of shut down instead. isn't the
Oh, wow.
greatest, but that's
Well,
where I was. Go ahead.
it sounds like it was probably necessary for you to have that quiet moment to be able
Yeah.
to just be for once and have the time to settle down and let all the chaos just kind of disappear for a while and get to where, you get to finally ask yourself, what do I want?
Yeah. Yeah, because I didn't know. Like, outside of
Mhm.
everybody else, what do I want? What do I need? And it's like, I've never asked myself that question. It was
Mhm.
always like, what can somebody else give to me to make me okay? Which wasn't fair to them. I didn't, but I didn't know. I didn't know. I was looking outward
Right.
for that empathy, for that stability, for that boost, that bolster, that support, not
Yeah.
realizing that it had to be me to do that initially. And then in my behaviors outwardly, I would teach people what is okay and what is not okay, set boundaries. Boundaries were never a thing in my house, like never. And so at 38,
Right.
I started learning what boundaries were, which is like, wow, you spent
Yeah.
all of those years. Yes, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Um, but
It
also,
Boundaries are
go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no. But also, it doesn't matter if you're 38, it doesn't matter if you're 58, it doesn't matter if you're 78. The
Mhm.
point is it's never too late to treat yourself differently and then have the world treat you differently because you know your worth and you know who you are inside and what you're capable of. And so age does not matter. It's what do you
Mhm.
want to live the rest of your life, whether it's 2 years or 30 years. What do you want to do? How do you want to feel? Um, yeah, so that was a big aha moment for me, for sure. Boundaries? Go ahead.
Yeah, boundaries are they're such a hot button thing right now. They're trendy, you hear the word everywhere, but, even like 7 or 8 years ago, that wasn't a word. I didn't even know what boundaries were until after I started making changes in my life, and I think it was maybe in therapy, maybe later on that I started hearing that word for the first time. I don't know when you started hearing the word boundaries, but it was not really even a concept that was in regular conversation, not that long ago.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a buzzword, but also I think that you and I are a little skewed because of what we do now. We kind of gravitate
Mhm.
towards those people that talk about boundaries. I don't think if we just pulled the next person off of the street, if I said, "Do you know what boundaries are and do you set them?" I don't know that they'd be like as like informed as you and I. So then I think there's a little skew, but also yes, it is definitely more of a conversation being had, just like narcissism. That is another word that
Right.
is ubiquitous and being thrown around in maybe cases that don't actually deserve that label.
Yeah, I agree because it comes down to like boundaries are good, narcissism is bad, and like it makes this entire binary thing where some people are either good or bad, and then if they're good, great. If they're bad, they're canceled, and there's no redemption. And I don't think that's how it works. I think I truly believe that hurt people, and there are definitely some people who have the actual pathology where they are unable to have any empathy for others. That is a thing, but I think it's a lot more rare than people realize. And I think that essentially what it comes down to is like, yeah, if you're having issues that you're not dealing with, you can hurt people really, really badly.
Yeah,
And, it's not
unintentionally.
other people's exactly. And it's not other people's job to save you from that. It's your job to save you from that. Just like if you have boundaries with other people, like it's not your job to save them and make them treat you better. It's your job to decide what you're willing to tolerate in your life. And,
Absolutely.
if they want to rise to the occasion, great. And if not, then that's their prerogative.
Yeah, absolutely. My friend Joe, I'm so happy you're here, my friend. Thank you for supporting us. He says this title makes more sense now that I'm here. I thought Comfort Woods was a destination, not a person. She is both, my friend. She is both. She is a destination in her own and a beautiful person. So yeah, I'm glad that you're here. Um, he said
Pictured.
he said, Stacey is talking with Comfort Woods. I pictured you talking to a tree. That's funny. Um,
Oh my gosh. Maybe
I
I am a
mean,
tree.
she is a little tree-like, and she's got some deep roots and some, beautiful leaves up top. Just look at her.
I'm
But
branching
yeah,
out.
she's an actual person.
Yeah, I know the name is weird. It's blame my parents, they were hippies. I was actually born and raised in a commune, so every one of my family has weird names like this, but I can assure you I am a person. And I'm really happy to be here. And thanks for tuning in, Joe. Appreciate it.
So talk about the inner child and what work did you have to do in order to save your marriage, in order to save yourself, in order to just let go of all of that stuff? Because I know you did some really deep inner child work, and I have too along the way. I'm at a different level now, even deeper, which is like, woof, rough, rough.
That's fantastic, though.
It is fantastic, but
Yeah,
man, it's rough. So talk about your inner child healing that you did.
yeah, for sure. So for starters, we'd have to go back to when I was an actual child. So I grew up in a commune, like I said, and there was a lot of chaos in my life. I had a lot of siblings, and there was just always just tons of people around. And with people, there comes drama and conflict and all the stuff that comes with people relating to each other. And I was the middle child, right? So at some point, I kind of internalized this idea that I needed to be the easy child. So I took it upon myself to say yes, to be obedient, even though I wasn't always good at it. I took it upon myself to try to be the good kid. And, as a result, the other kids made fun of me a lot. They called me goody two shoes. And there was a lot of bullying going on back then. Um, you know, Kids can be
That
mean. They really can.
kids can be terribly mean. That blows my mind because when I think, I joke with my best friend all the time. I'm like, "Let's run away and just start a commune." Like, I am done with this. And so, like, you're killing my dream here. You're like, "Oh, it's chaos and people relating to each other and drama." And I'm like, "No, that's like here
I mean,
now."
don't get me wrong. There was a lot of really awesome, good things to it, but in the end, I got to tell you, people are still people. It really just comes down to people, and the people who founded the whole thing. They came with whatever concepts and ideas and baggage that they were carrying around. Like that didn't just magically go away because they all moved onto a piece of property together. Like, sorry, people is still people, and the work still has to be done, regardless of where you live, who you are, who you're dealing with. Like there's still work to do. Anyway, so my childhood, I was the easy kid, and I was bullied a lot. And the weird thing about being on a commune is that if you're bullied by the only other 5 to 10 kids on the property, there is nobody else, right? So
Yeah, that's
I
intense.
had to learn that if I wanted to not be alone, I had to go back to those people again and again and again every single day. There was nobody else. So yeah, so that really did a number on me, where I was constantly overthinking and analyzing my own behavior. Like, oh, okay, what can I do different today to not get bullied, to not get mistreated, to not get gaslit, to not run home crying again. And that went on for a very long time. Eventually we all started growing up and learning to treat each other a little bit better. I started getting quieter. I hit puberty, so that was a big part of it. So yeah, that's how it all started. And I was a big daydreamer. They said I was off in La La Land a lot. That was kind of a running joke. Oh, she's off in La La Land again. But a lot of what I would fantasize about was who I would be when I grew up. Because I didn't have a lot of control over my life at the time. And so I had this idea that someday I'll grow up and I'll be big and strong and brave and all the things that I'm not right now. So fast forward to my low point, when I saw that inner child, and I realized, like, this is it. I am that person, and I can't look forward anymore. So the inner child work was basically just taking the empathy and the patience and the guidance and all the stuff that I had for everybody else, because fighting for other people has never been an issue of mine. I've always been able to fiercely advocate for others. Like, that's never been an issue. But I was just, when it came to myself, I just felt like that was inherently selfish, and I would just crumble every time. So finally, just having that little bit of a perspective shift, it was like all of a sudden I was looking at it from the other direction. I wasn't looking forward to my future self. I was looking back to my past self and realizing, like, if she could see me now, she is seeing me now. She's still in there, and good God, I'm not exactly reassuring, am I? So I started making choices to make her proud, to say, like, what can I do to, soothe that inner child and show her that everything's going to be okay.
Can you give an
And
example
yeah.
of that so people can kind of make that connection within themselves?
Yeah. So when other people had, needs that conflicted with mine or tried to push my boundaries or like tried to, you know, want something of me that I really didn't have the spoons to give. Normally I would just be like, oh, well, if I have any time, if I have any resources, if I have anything, then I owe it to everybody else to just give and give and give and give until there's nothing left. But, once I had that empathy, I was like, you know what? Wait a minute. I need to take care of this person. Like, this person is running out of steam. Like, she needs rest. She needs to be able to say no. And if it was somebody else, I'd be able to be like, no, they're tired, they're whatever, they're going through something. They deserve all the things. And finally it was like, wait a minute, no, I deserve all the things too. This person inside me needs some space, needs some boundaries, needs some rest, has needs, and it's okay to have needs. And eventually I came up with this idea that, like, on a scale of importance, right? Whose needs are important, like, and whose skills are better and whose experience is more valid, like, that historically, here was everybody else. And I thought that if I wasn't down here, then I must be up here. And that's bad. That's selfish, right? That's arrogant. So I kept myself down here below everybody else and everybody else's needs and wants and experience and everything. And then I realized, wait a minute, I am just as important as everybody else. I'm not more important, because I learned that real quick as a middle child. Like, it's not all about me, but I'm still here. I'm a person. I deserve to take up space too. So that's how the inner child work manifests for me. So the way I work with my clients is like, you know, get in touch with that little person, that person inside of you, that vulnerable version of yourself that just wants to live and love and, just be. And that person has needs, and fight for that person the way you would fight for anyone else. Because if your cup is empty, then you're going to burn out. And if you burn out, then not only are you not good to anybody else, but you're not good to yourself. And that's just no
And
way to
nobody's
live.
gonna fight for you. Nobody's
Yes.
gonna fight for you. Even though Comfort was fighting outside externally for other people, she only could do that so much for other people before they needed to be responsible for themselves. And so,
Yes.
nobody's, there's always that saying, nobody's coming. Nobody's
Hmm.
coming to rescue you. It's you. You're the one. You can't
Yeah.
turn to somebody else and say, "Help me with my trauma and my drama," unless it's a therapist or, coaching in some cases. But like, none of your friends are going to do that for you. They can't. They can't.
No.
If they wanted to, they couldn't.
Hmm. Yeah, and even if it's a therapist, they can only show you the way. They can't make you walk the walk, you know? And yeah, I like what you said about that other people have to do the work too, because, when you're a people pleaser and you're a recovering codependent, you tend to just want to fix everything for everyone else because you have no emotional boundaries. Their pain is your pain, and you want to just do whatever you can to make it go away. And so you
Yeah.
try to fix it, and they're not doing their work, and then nothing ever changes. Like, it was a really difficult realization that you can't save people from themselves. You can't. And they have their own inner child to save. They really do. And when you take a step back and you realize that you got to fight for yourself, it's a two-way street. Like, they have to fight for themselves too. And when you know how to do that for yourself, then you know how to spot other people who are doing the work, you know, and those are your people.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What's a little exercise that you do just like maybe it's something simple for somebody trying to get in touch with their inner child for the first time in their adulthood?
Yeah. Well, visualization, honestly. Like, I've got an active imagination, and if you're more of a verbal person, maybe journaling or something, but like, basically just being able to see that inner child. Like, in my case, if I look back, I can close my eyes and I can just remember being 8 or 9 years old and running around in the woods and having sticks and leaves in my hair and being barefoot and whatever else, and just being a wild kid, you know and just how it felt to be free, and then also how it felt to be bullied. And, you know, there were so many years where I spent time just like wondering what I could have done differently. And then, so visualizing yourself, but visualizing yourself with enough distance to realize that like, what would you say to that kid now? If you were you as you are now, and you came into contact with that child, and really like visualize, like, what are they wearing? What do they look like? Where are they? What are they doing? Having that visual kind of um, manifestation, it really just kind of grounds it and makes it real, because that person did really exist, and that person didn't just go away. They're still in there, right? And maybe it's not a little kid, maybe it's a teenager version of yourself, maybe, and another good way to do it is to visualize someone else in your life that you really, really care about, someone that you do have all that empathy for, all that patience for, all that kindness, all of those things that you already feel for someone else. Imagine that person is you. Like,
Yeah,
what would you say?
and if you're having trouble pulling up that visual, because I'm like, how some people can't visualize an apple. Like, I'm one of those people. I know what an apple looks like, and in my head I can't visualize it. I have a concept or an outline of an apple. Go
Huh.
grab yeah, it's weird. It's frustrating because I love imagining, but yeah. So, but what you can do is grab a photograph from when you were little and look at that instead.
Yes. Yes. If you can't visualize it yourself, grab a photograph. Absolutely. And a lot of it is focusing on the feeling, like focus on the feeling of being that person, you know, and and kind of see that person from the eyes of an adult too, of like, you have your own memories when you were little, and those are the memories of someone who was little. But if you look back through the lens of an adult and you realize, wow, like that kid went through that, you know, that kid really thought those things. And so, yeah, having a photograph or some kind of memento, an old sweater or an old, ticket stub, whatever it is that takes you back to that place, and find a way to fuse that with how you feel about the people you care about, because you got to care about that person inside. Like, you got to. Nobody else spends as much time with you as you do. Nobody else knows your deepest thoughts and fears and dreams and everything else the way you do. And so if you don't have a solid relationship with yourself, then you can't present in the world. Like, you can't show up in the world as a solid entity, and that's what can make you fall victim to things like codependency and porous boundaries and people pleasing and stuff, because you seek that elsewhere when it should be coming from you. So I like to ask a lot of Socratic questions too.
I
That
do
kind of
love
get
your
people.
question. Would you illustrate one of them for me? Because they like, so you guys, she did a workshop for some coaches a couple of weeks ago on how the inner child affects your self-worth and asking for money, right?
Mhm.
And she had these beautiful questions. I have not had a workshop like that elicited so much conversation. In fact, it was so much we had to break it out in two, which we didn't intend to, but it was like so many conversations were happening because of these questions. So would you share some of those? Because I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first questions was, think of a moment or think of a time in your life or a situation where you have these feelings that, specifically with money, it was think of times when you felt guilty about either asking for or receiving or spending money, because I've definitely felt that, and a lot of the people that I spoke to that day have definitely felt that, where people have all sorts of weird relationships with money in particular. But it could be in any case. Like, when have you felt guilty about setting a boundary with somebody, with saying no to somebody, because you didn't have, you didn't have the bandwidth, or, maybe you had the time, but you really didn't want to, or whatever it is. Like, when have you ever felt guilty about having that kind of self advocacy? What are the feelings that have come up? That's the first question. And then once people have that moment in their mind where they're able to tap into that feeling, then it's a question of, okay, where did that feeling come from? Like, what were the stories that you were told when you were younger that have made those feelings become a thing in your life? And yeah, some of the stories that people shared that day were incredible. Um, Someone said that they felt guilty about spending any money on themselves because they were literally kicked out of their home for wanting to buy their own soccer ball when they were a kid.
Yeah, I thought
Another,
that was wild. Go ahead.
yeah, and another one, she said that she was afraid to be financially independent. Deep down, she felt weird about earning more money than her spouse, because when she was younger, that was the only way that her parents showed her love, was by buying her stuff. And so if she had all of her financial needs met, then who would love her? And these messages that we receive early on in childhood, we internalize them. And having these questions and being able to take the time to just tap in. So yeah, think of a moment. If you're watching this, think of a moment when, what is an issue in your life that you feel like you could use more boundaries, more self-advocacy, a moment where maybe people are taking advantage of you, or you're just giving a little bit too much. What are the feelings that come up? What is the narrative? What is the story that you're telling yourself? And where did that story come from? Because a lot of
Yeah.
times when we have those feelings and those self-criticizing thoughts, they usually either come from someone else who told us those things in the past, or they come from our own inner child who's afraid of something bad happening.
Yeah, for sure. I remember, um, like, singing in the car, and I'm a decent singer. Like, I'm a decent singer. But when I was little, I had no training, but I was singing in the car, and my mom said, "Oh, you're off key." And it was like, I don't think she was trying to be critical, but man, that's how it landed, is of like, "Oh, you're a terrible singer, don't sing, you're off key." Like, the stories that I absorbed from that one sentence, because as children, we don't have a filter. We don't know what to do with this information. We don't have compassion for ourselves. We don't know how to like, our prefrontal cortex isn't done. And so we don't
Mm-hmm.
have that filter of like taking in the information and going, "Oh, she just meant I was off key. Not that I was a
Right.
terrible singer, not that I shouldn't sing, none of that. She just meant that I was off key." However, also, she didn't help me get on key. So that was like,
Yeah.
it kind of left me to bridge, to complete this circle that I had no knowledge to complete. And so, because our brains work the way they do, which is always looking for the negative to keep us safe, it closed that circle in a negative pattern. And it could have not, if I had just been helped out a little bit more, or who knows. But I internalized that for many years.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually gave me stage fright when I was actually capable of singing and in all the choirs and all the performances and stuff like that. I had stage fright of performing by myself. I could do it with the group, but if you ever asked
Mm-hmm.
me to sing a solo, oh my God, I wanted to pee my pants for sure. For sure.
Yeah. And that's totally understandable. And that's the thing too, is a lot of the messages that we internalize, it might not even be what the people around us meant. Our brains, when we're that young, we're not able to detect nuance and subtlety and all the little things, and apply certain concepts here but not there, or whatever. We end up coming up with these blanket statements, that we feel are important to our lives, and then we move on and we carry them with us, and like, okay, here's the broad stroke, like, lesson in this, and then we're going to keep going. And if you never stop to check how many of those you're carrying around and whether they're actually helping you, they can run your life.
Yeah, and they can actually lie to you and tell you that, "Hey, I'm keeping you safe," or "I'm helping you," or "I'm helping motivate you," and
Mhm,
it's actually doing the opposite. And I think that that's hard for people to sort through too, is because these thoughts, these saboteurs, um,
mhm.
they do seem like they have good intentions for you, but it's all fear-based, it's all fear-driven. And so in the end, even if you think, "Hey, this is helping me now," in the long term, no, it is not. No,
Right,
it is not.
exactly. So my general rule of thumb is if you wouldn't say it to a child, don't say it to yourself. And my work as a teacher, I've worked with tons and tons of children who have struggled and been frustrated with themselves and been like, "Oh, I'm too stupid. I can't do this, whatever." And if you ever have those feelings yourself, imagine, you know, imagine a kid saying that, because that's what it is. It's coming from that inner child of yours who struggled and was frustrated, whatever. You know, would you say some of the things that you say to yourself to a child who is struggling in that way, you know, who is doing something difficult or scary for the first time, who is trying to stand up for themselves? What would you say to them? Would you call them selfish? Would you call them stupid? Would you, berate them for making a mistake? No, you probably wouldn't. You'd want to be encouraging and say, hey, you're trying. It's not going to be perfect. And it's okay to screw up and just get up and keep going. You know, that's that's the idea, is to turn that mindset inward. At
Yeah,
least for me, that's what's worked.
no, absolutely. I say if you wouldn't say it to your kid, like, look at your kid and then
Mhm,
internally say to your kid what you're saying to yourself. You will stop real fast. You will stop
mhm.
really quick. Or that's your bestie. Say that to your bestie. My bestie would probably punch me in the throat, which is valid.
Yeah,
That's valid. Because she takes no
yeah,
shit. She takes no prisoners.
that's a
Um,
good friend.
yeah, it's actually all 3 of my besties take no prisoners, which is awesome. But, if you're not gonna say it to your bestie, if you're not gonna say it to your child, please don't say it to yourself. And then the other, thing that I give my clients is, if the words that you said to yourself appeared on your skin like tattoos,
Mhm.
what would that look like?
Yeah.
What would that look like? Would people be horrified to read it, or, um, empowered to read it?
Mhm. Can you visualize that?
I can like, again, I've got the outline of it. I can't see it perfectly, but yeah, I could see like an arm with, "You're stupid and you're selfish and why can't you just fix this?" And I can see that
Mhm.
in some conceptual ways. So but for those of you that can, or go use AI. For
Yeah.
the people that struggle with the visualization like I do, go use AI and create it. So now you have an actual visual to look at versus trying to conjure one in your mind.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
That's actually a really good exercise that I like to use, is, take that self-talk, and I get people like tap into that part of your life that you want to change, because the people who sign up for coaching, they have something in mind. Usually they're like, man, I'm stuck. I'm feeling all, however, and I want to make a change, right? So I tell them, tap into that feeling, that change. And what is the self-talk? Write it down. Like, get a piece of paper out, write it down, write down every little thing that comes to mind, every self-criticism, every fear, everything, and look at it and say to yourself, how much of that is actually true? Imagine that, you know, that a child wrote it. What would you say in response to that? Is it actually helpful? Is any of it actually helpful? Because that's what it really comes down to. Like, you can come up with whatever framework in your mind that works for you, but if it's not working for you,
Yeah.
it's all in your head anyway. So
It
ditch it.
really is. It really is all in your head, which is crazy to think that we can't control everything that comes through our head. You can,
Mhm.
though. Some of the stuff you're going to recognize as junk. Not every thought is true, Not every thought is valid. Sometimes your brain just be braining like that. It really, really does. Because
Yeah.
it wants to keep thoughts and flowing and look again, that's looking for danger. Um, but also, when you do think negative things of yourself, you can slow down, you can stop, you can catch it, which is what I teach people to do, is
Mhm.
catch the thought, which is absolutely the hardest out of all of
Yeah.
the steps, is catching it because you heard it from somebody else when you were little, but it's been with you for so long. Now it's changed into your voice. And your voice, you know your voice. And so it's easy to dismiss it because you hear your voice all the time, internally, externally, whatever.
Mhm.
And that becomes the hard part because it's so part of your daily talk that you're going to miss it. So you've actually got to slow down to catch it. And then when you do catch it, you can go, okay, is this true? Is this helpful? What is the
Yeah.
truth instead?
Yeah, I like to think of thoughts like belt sushi. They're rolling by, and if you like something, take it. If you don't, leave it on the belt. Let it go. Let it keep
That's
going.
that's a good
Right.
analogy. I love that. That's a great
Yeah.
analogy.
And yeah, and then when you take all those negative thoughts, all that negative self-talk, and you see it written down, you can start writing out responses. And that brings me to the last Socratic question that I asked is like, okay, what can you say in response to this? What is a better narrative that you can carry with you? One that you would actually say to someone you care about in
Yeah.
response. You write down those responses on another piece of paper, and then you take that old one with all the negative stuff and you burn it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Comfort, tell people what it's like to work with you and tell them how they can reach you if they're interested in a call.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with my clients one on one. I am in the process of putting together a group uh, series. So if you're interested in one on one, absolutely give me a call. I will listen to you and your story. And that's the difference between, coaching and any other kind of, you know, therapy is one thing that's more focused on the past and it's very clinical. Coaching is the now what. So I will help you real time in your life, in your situation with now what. And it's not some pre-prepared modules. It's not a book. It's not anything that's pre-packaged because anybody can read a book and you'll get some information, but it's not the same as having someone actually listen to you, actually hear your story, your unique situation, because you are a unique individual. So my job is to listen to you and help you navigate your life and help you create a plan for your journey and help you celebrate the little wins and recoup from the losses and everything else in between. And um and so if you want to get a hold of me, you can go to my website. It's comfortwoods.coach, and book a call. It's free, and we'll have a conversation. I'll make sure that you at least walk away with some tricks and some ideas. If it makes sense to work together beyond that, fantastic. But if not, that's okay. I just want to make sure that you have access to whatever resources and help that you need. You can also follow me on Instagram at Comfort Coaching. I post every day. And I also have a Facebook account, also called Comfort Coaching. So reach out. I'd love to hear your story.
I love that. I love that so much. And for me, you guys, if you want to get rid of some negative self-talk, that is one of my specialties. You obviously know where to find me. Shoot me a message anywhere: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. My site is a few short minutes coaching.com. And so, yeah, we both offer free discovery calls, complimentary discovery calls, and no hard sell, no strings attached. Honestly, let's just talk about what your life could look like if you got rid of that negative self talk, if you healed your inner child and you were no longer afraid to do the things that currently you're afraid to do. Uh, I can't even imagine what your life would look like with that help. So, I'm excited for you, for those that take the leap. You absolutely should. And also, if you're confused on should I be in therapy, should I be doing coaching, come speak to us. We have high ethics, high standards, high morals. We know where our boundaries lie as coaches versus therapists. And so we will help guide that decision with you, because I know a lot of people are confused on where the line is between the two. And I know, some coaches don't honor that line. But I am
Mhm.
confident and proud when I say both of us honor that line and it's important to us. So, yeah, we could even do that for you. So, thanks you
Mhm.
guys for tuning in today. I hope this was beneficial and enlightening. And if you see yourself in whatever we've spoken about, reach out to us
Yeah,
and just
we
let us know, like, or let us just say, hey, I've got some questions. Fantastic, let's talk. Comfort, thank you for being here. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks for
you.
having me, Stacey. This has been fun.
I'm so glad. Any last thoughts?
Just, if you've tuned in, thank you so much for giving us your time. And I hope that you've, gained some value from this experience. And if you want to talk more, absolutely give me a call. I love hearing stories and I'd love to get to know you better.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for joining us. And I'll be back soon with another beautiful soul who also helps beautiful souls. And I hope you tune in then. If you have any comments or questions, drop them below. And Comfort and I will be monitoring and answer as appropriate. And yeah, thanks for spending part of your Saturday with us. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Bye, you guys.
Bye.